All right, good day, guys. Today we're going to be doing trig. The one thing I do want to tell you, these notes are a little bit longer. You do have the trig ratios on that formula chart I gave you. Also, if you remember SOHCAHTOA, it's a good way to remember the trig ratios. So we're going to just go through this real quickly. You do need your calculator for the ones we're going to do in the back, so just letting you know. All right, trigonometry, from the Greek language, it means triangle measurement, okay? Sorry, my paper's a little wrinkled. I spilled some water on it. Trig ratios, ratios of the length of two sides of a right triangle. So if you go to the root triangle here, and the A and B can be reversed, it doesn't matter. So if you're at angle A and you're doing sine, it's always opposite over hypotenuse, okay? If you're at angle A and you're doing cosine, okay, ka is always adjacent over hypotenuse. And if you're at angle A and you are doing tangent, it's always opposite over adjacent. So these are the trig ratios you just need to memorize. Example 1. So we're just going to write trig ratios on these. It says find the sine, cosine, and tangent of the indicated angles D and E. So let's do angle D first. So I'm going to do sine D. So I go to put my pencil on D. And then from here, I go and see it's opposite. So from opposite here will be 14 over hypotenuse is 50. You always do want to reduce your fractions if they reduce. So that reduces to 7/25. Then we'll do cosine D. Again, I'll put my finger on the angle D, and the rule says adjacent. So the adjacent would be right here. You have technically two adjacent sides, but this is your hypotenuse. So the adjacent side will be 48 over the hypotenuse again, which is 50. You want to reduce, that reduced to 24 over 25. All right, then I'm going to do the last one, which is tangent D. Again, put your pen or pencil right here on the angle D. The rule is opposite, so I'm going all the way across, which will be 14 over adjacent, which is 48. And then you want to reduce again, which is 7 over 24. Okay. Then you do the exact same thing for sine E. I'm going to let you guys do those on your own. But you can practice doing those and just make sure you reduce. Okay? So let's look at example 2. It says find the sine, cosine, and tangent of the indicated angles A and B. All right, so let's do B. Let's do A this time because it's in a different location. All right. So first thing is here, I am missing a side. So before I do anything else, I need to do Pythagorean theorem so I can get the missing length here. So A squared plus B squared equals C squared. These are my legs, so I could do 2 squared plus 3 squared, which equals C squared. So we have 4 plus 9, which is 13. We don't want C squared, so you need to take the square root. So C turns out to be square root of 13. And we can just leave it as a radical. Okay. Now, let's just go ahead today for this one instead of doing both. So the notes aren't so long. We're just going to do angle A. So let's start with sine A. Again, take your pencil or pen, put it on that angle. Look at the rule, which you can't see. We could just write SOHCAHTOA here again. Okay. So if I'm here on angle A, O stands for opposite, so I'm going to go opposite hypotenuse. So 3 over radical 13. And again, you're not supposed to have a 13 in the bottom, so when you simplify that, I'll accept this, but technically the correct answer is this. And we did some multiplying with the radicals in special right, so you should know how to do that. All right, then you'll do cosine of A. Again, put your pencil or pen right here on A, and you're going to look at the root adjacent over hypotenuse. So adjacent side is 2 over square root of 13. Again, I don't know, I keep doing that. You don't want to have the radical on the bottom, so you multiply that out, so your final answer would be this. And then you're going to do one more. Let's do tangent of A. So again, I'll go here. The rule is TOA, opposite. So from here, opposite is 3. And then adjacent is 2. And there's nothing, you can't reduce that one, so you're done. Okay? And if you want to do more practice on your own, you can do sine B, cosine B, and tan B. All right? Just like what we did before, but doing it with angle B this time. This is exactly what we did on top. I'm going to go ahead and just fill these in just so we don't waste so much time. They're just doing the trig ratios on the special rights, but it's exactly what we did on here, so I'm just going to go ahead and just provide you with these answers. That way we can move on to the rest of the notes. You do need to copy these down. Okay. All right, so I'll just do one to show you. It's just like what you would do before. So if I was to go to sine 45, instead of giving me the angle, I just go to the number. And if I'm doing sine, it will be opposite. So that's why it's 1 over radical 2. So exactly what we did on top. It's just this time you're looking going at to the angles. Okay. And it doesn't matter if you do this one. It's the same thing, 1 over radical 2. So it didn't matter which one you went to. Okay. So let's do something a little different. Oh, before I do that, you might want to write this down on your paper. Using these calculators, you want to make sure your calculator is in degree mode. So you would hit mode, then you're going to go down to where you see radians, but you want to highlight degree and hit enter there. Okay? And then you get out of there. Okay, so again, you want to hit mode and you want to make sure degree is the one that is highlighted. Otherwise, your answers are going to come out wrong. Okay? All right, so for these ones here, it says, number 1, place the calculator in degree mode, which we just did. Okay? And then for these ones, you just type them in. So sine, cosine is right here. If you want the inverse keys there, you have to hit the second first. So let's just do sine of 35. So we'll go to sine. You type in 35. Okay? And it says go to 4 decimal places, so it'll be 0.5736. And I think I have something on the back that has us, yeah, so we don't need to do that on this one. Then we're going to do cosine, exactly what I did before. Just hit cosine, type in the 10. Go to 4 decimal places again, so 0.9848. And then let's do the last one, which is tangent 74. So hit tan and type in 74. And you're going to get 3.4874. Okay? Is that easy on those types? All right, so now we're actually going to do some problems to solve. So again, you might want to write the little rule here. If you don't have it memorized. And we're going to solve these. So we're looking for, I think, y and x, okay? Or z, whatever letters it is here. So on this one, I need to find both. So let's say I'm going to do y. And I'm going to go to just the angle that's given. I could technically figure out this angle, but I'm going to go ahead and just do this angle here, okay? So if I want to do y, I'm going to come here, put my finger, and the rule for y is I have this and I have this. Okay, it doesn't make sense to use z, there's no number there. So if I'm here, I'm thinking about what are these two things from this angle. From this angle, I can see it's actually going to be adjacent and it's going to be hypotenuse. So the rule that has adjacent and hypotenuse is cosine. So I will do cosine 15 equals 20 over y. All right? Then from here, you just do your algebra to get y by itself. So you would multiply y on both sides. So now I have y cosine 15 equals 20. But I don't want that, so you need to divide that cosine 15 out. Like that. This is what you're going to type into the calculator. Okay? So I'm going to write a little neater here. So cosine, nope, not cosine, it's 20 on top. Sorry, my bad. So y turned out to be 20 over cosine 15. You want to get your calculators out. You want to make sure, again, it's in degree mode. Mine should be because I haven't cleared it. So I hit 20 divided by cosine 15. And it turns out to be 20.71 or something, whatever. How many decimal places does it say? 1 decimal place. So 20.7. Okay, so that is y. Okay, now I'm going to find z. All right, for z, I decided I'm going to do these two. So now I'm going to do these two. So again, I go to the angle that's given, and I think about, okay, from here I have an opposite and I have an adjacent. What rule is that? Opposite, adjacent, it has to be tangent. So in this one, I'm going to do tan of 15 equals, okay, z, because it's z first, over 20. Again, I want to get z by itself, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 20. This one's a little bit easier to do. So to get z by itself, I'm going to just type in 20 tan 15. So get your calculators out, type that in, 20, and then put tan 15. And that turns out to be 5.4. So these aren't really that much difficult. You just have to think about what trig function you're going to use. So let's try this next one here. And again, I'm just going to go with the angle that's given. And this one, they only want us to find the x. So that's all I'm going to do on that one. So I'm right here. These are the two things that are given from this angle. So I have an opposite and I have a hypotenuse. So I go to see what rule has opposite and hypotenuse. It has to be sine. So I'm going to write sine 28 equals x over 6.2. Again, like before what we did, if I want to get x by itself, I need to get rid of the 6.2. So I'm going to multiply 6.2 on both sides. Okay, so now we have x equals 6.2 sine of 28. So now I'll just get my calculator out. It's still in degree mode because I haven't changed anything. Type that in. Exactly the way you wrote it. Go to 1 decimal place, it's 2.9. Okay. Let me put my decimal in there. All right, let's do one more, and then we got a few more examples. Same thing. Go to the, now if they give you both angles, you have to think about which one you want to use. But since they're only giving me one angle, I'm going to start here. I have two letters I need to sign, so decide which one you're going to do first. I'm going to do x. Okay, and so these are the two things I'm going to use because there's no number on the y. So if I start with this angle, I have an opposite and I have hypotenuse. Okay, opposite and hypotenuse only goes with sine. So for me to do x, I'm going to use sine. So I'll do sine of 31 equals opposite 4 over x. Okay, so I'm going to multiply both sides by x. Okay, so then the final answer turns out to be, because you're going to get x sine 31 equals 4, and then you just divide that out. So this is what you're going to type into the calculator. So get your calculators out. It should still be in degree mode. So you do 4 first, then divide, then sine, then 31. And you're going to 1 decimal place, so that will be 7.8 x. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do y, and I'm going to use those two. Okay? So again, starting with this angle, I have these two that I'm going to use. So I'm thinking, okay, I have an opposite and I have a adjacent. Opposite and adjacent, opposite adjacent is only tangent. That's the only thing I can use, okay? So for this one, I'm going to do tan of 31 equals 4 over y. Kind of the same concept. Again, you're going to multiply the y out. So now you have y tan 31 equals 4. Divide tan 31. So this is what you're going to put in the calculator. Sometimes there's going to be a division problem. Sometimes there'll be a multiplication problem. When the x are variables on top, it's usually going to be a multiplication. When it's on the denominator, it's going to look like a division when you type in. So I'm going to do 4 divided tan 31, and that turns out to be 6.7. Okay. All right, so we got a few more, and then we're done with notes. All right. Example 5. Okay, it says, You are measuring the height of a building. You stand 100 feet from the base of the building. Okay, I'm right here. You measure the angle of elevation, from a point on the ground to the top of the building to be 48 degrees. So that's right here. Estimate the height of the building. So that's my X right here. So the two things I have are this and this. Okay, and I'm right here. So I don't have a hypotenuse. So from here, I only have an opposite. Oh, sorry, you guys can't see the picture. My bad, apologize. From here, I only have an opposite and I have an adjacent. So if I remember the little saying, opposite and adjacent has to go with tangent, right? So I will do tan 48 equals, from here, opposite will be X over 100. Then I just do my math by multiplying 100 out on both sides. X equals 100 times tan 48. So put that into your calculator. Again, it needs to always be in degree mode. So if you had clear everything, you might want to double check. 100, and then type 48 in there. Turns out to be, what does that say? 111. Does it say to round? So I would just estimate, so that means I'm just going to round it. So I'm going to take the decimals off because it's 0.0. So just 111 feet. Right. A few more examples, and then we're done. Sorry, this is my handwriting, so it's a little sloppy. I apologize. But I figure you guys need to know how to do these. Okay, so these ones are a little different because these ones you want to find the angles. So if you don't understand what that means you're looking for the angles. My handwriting, I apologize. And whenever you're looking for the angles, you're going to use the inverse keys. So the inverse keys are like the sine, -1, cosine, -1, and tan, -1. So if you look on your calculator, they're going to be here, but they're going to be in a different color. They might be blue or yellow depending on what the kind of calculator you have. And whenever you have those, you have to hit inverse. So I'm going to type this in, but first you're going to hit the inverse. So you hit second sine. And you see how it come out with that -1? Then I type in those decimals, type them all in. And there's my angle. Okay, it's 28.99 degrees. So I just wanted to show you how to get the angles. I'm going to do the same thing for the cosine. Okay, I got to put the inverse though because we're looking for the angle. So I hit second cosine and I type in 0.7431. And that gives me 42. Again, I'm hitting this. Okay, so make sure you hit the inverse. Then I'm going to do the same thing for the tangent. Whenever you look for the angles, you have to hit the inverse. So I'm going to hit second tangent, so you can see my little inverses there. Then type in that number in, 19.0811. And that turns out to be 86.99, which if you want to round, we'll round this one just to 87. So is that easy to get the angles? You just got to make sure you take the inverse. I'm going to do one more where I'm just going to find the angles. I'm going to go and do angle A and B. They're giving me all the sides, so it doesn't matter which trig method you use because they're all going to work. So I'm going to do angle A, okay, and it doesn't matter what you use. I decide to use sine, and you know you're going to have to take the inverse, so go ahead and put the inverse on there. So if I'm here and I'm doing sine, I'm doing opposite, which is 40, because remember the rule is, okay, so I'm doing opposite, which is 40, over hypotenuse, which is 41. I type that exactly into the calculator, hit the inverse first, then I'm going to do 40 divided by 41, hit enter, and there's my angle. It's 77.32. Right? And that should work if you did a different one. So if I did 10, sorry. You see I got the same thing. I just did tan just to show you. If I did tan from that angle, which would be opposite 40 over 9, you guys can see it's right here. It's the exact same. So it doesn't matter which one you do as long as you do your math correct. Let's do one more angle B, and then we're done. So let's do a different one. This time we did tan, so let's do cosine. So if I'm here and I want to do cosine, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, so I will do 40. Make sure you put the inverse. 40 over the hypotenuse, which is 41. Type that into the calculator. Make sure you have the inverse on it. Hit enter, and it turns out to be 12.68. All right. Again, I know this is a little different, so you might need to go review these notes a few times. But take your time on them. If you need to review the notes, I do have some additional videos. All right. When you get done with that, you're going to start your classwork.